We got some WoW news to get into, but on a broader note, we got some MMO news to get into, boys and girls. That's right. The MMO scene is heating up, and if you don't remember, quite a bit ago, I did say that, prophetic as usual. I said I feel like we're entering into a new golden age of MMOs, and a lot of people feel like this genre is dead, but I've been saying it for quite a while. I actually think this genre is lining up for what is going to be kind of a second rush or a second renaissance of MMOs, and right now, that all seems to be coming true. So here we go. Let's dive into this article here. The MMO wars have begun again. That's right. For a decade now, the big budget theme park MMOs felt like a settled genre. World of Warcraft up at the top, then you got Final Fantasy sitting out there capturing players, as well as Guild Wars 2. Those have kind of been the three big boys for quite a while now. You've had the incumbents, the guys trying to make it out there. You've had Amazon try to make their push into the MMO scene. And, everyone's kind of come and gone for a little bit. We've even had Ashes of Creation, other MMOs that have, not even been able to launch really or get off the helipad. So MMOs in general, they're a big undertaking. They're an expensive undertaking. And really, the genre itself has felt like it's kind of gone cold. But all at once here, everything seems to be heating up once again. Or should I say, the drums of war have thundered once again. That's right. Right now, the quiet has ended. In the span of just a week, we have seen the Guild Wars 2 sequel announcement, which we'll check out here in a second, and the world on the world's biggest summer stage, a fresh confirmation that Riot's Runeterra MMO, which is based on the League of Legends lore, and if you don't know, there is a ton of League of Legends lore out there. The League of Legends is much more than just a, top-down scroller, RPG fight it out, whatever you want to call that genre. I forget, honestly, what the hell that genre is even called these days. But basically, a tower defense kind of thing. It's much more than that. Runeterra and everything else that goes into it. Riot's dumped a ton of lore into their characters, into their world, and they're ready to make an MMO about it. We know they're working on it. That has now been play tested internally. That's right. We're going to talk a little bit about some of the news that has come out from that. And then, of course, Blizzard finally giving the old guard a classic plus of their own. 3 of the world's most recognizable names in the genre suddenly moving at the same time. That hasn't happened since the mid-2010s. Below, we break down the actual confirmation of each project and what is still rumored, and the part everyone really wants, when we might realistically, on a timeline here, which is kind of laid out already above, when we can get their hands on all of these games. I'm in the Ashes Discord, Hatsutu. Get the hell out of there. I'm surprised that thing still even exists. It's hilarious that Riot has ridden on Blizzard's success for a decade, being the reskin of Dota 2. You're kind of right. Yeah, I mean, they're literally doing it again, aren't they? But hey, you can't fault them. I mean, competition breeds excellence, and Riot has been very competitive in every genre they've gotten into, really. So they've been doing a good job, and I think their MMO is going to be another real attempt at making what is typically dubbed a WoW killer. We'll see if it actually does that. But first of all, Guild Wars 3. And its real lead with real atmosphere. So ArenaNet dropped the Guild Wars 3 announcement trailer during the Summer Games Fest just the other day on June 5th, 2026. No gameplay walkthrough, no release date, just a mood piece. And what the mood piece is saying, the whole thing is rendered as a gold thread embroidered onto a rippled red tapestry, and the narrator is inviting you to become a guardian of the land of Or. Let's check this thing out. It's already gotten 850,000 views on its first day. Here we go. And the graphics are kind of crazy.
We all have our own reasons for coming to this vast frontier. But for our guild, we who protect this land, one reason stands above all others.
Exhaustingly detailed and rewarding experience.
Wonder. You feel it too.
Pretty good music.
I see it in your eyes. Wonder at the astonishing power that shapes this land of awe. At the great spirits to whom we are bound. At the gods who hold dominion over all. We cannot guarantee your comfort or even your safety. But if you yearn for horizons unexplored, for fellowship and worth dying for. To you, we can promise magic.
All right. Nice little hype piece there. So, Guild Wars 3, yeah, we'll talk a little bit about kind of the cinematic breakdown here, what it all means, what they were trying to get at. But this MMO and everything that's seemingly going into it, if you remember Guild Wars 3, or Guild Wars 2, I should say, and what it really brought in terms of MMOs is really an overall experience that is supposed to be kind of player-led, right? Guild Wars and everything else. And also their mounting experience. That's really what Guild Wars 2, if you know dynamic flight and everything in WoW, really was a rip from Guild Wars 2. So let's see what they're getting into here. So basically Guild Wars 2, the trailer never shows a single frame of actual gameplay. It instead lays out a tone and plays out from shot to shot. It opens up by leaning into the franchise's reputation. An IGN article pulled, quote, that says one of the most exhaustingly detailed and rewarding MMO experiences. The gods and natural spirits of Ur, that's what this image is depicting here, rendered and embroidered idols with a crescent moon, the great spirits to whom we are bound. So it's kind of, I don't know if it's their titans in Guild Wars. I don't know a lot about Guild Wars lore, but that looks pretty cool. And then the tapestry, floating islands, dragons, suns and spirals, mounted Val Wardens, riding into it. This is the world you'll be guarding. So here we go. Guild Wars 2, the trailer deliberately is vague, and the Steam listing is also vague, but it concentrates on a few details here. Guild Wars 3 is a pitch on an action-adventure MMORPG and a modern evolution of the genre coming to PlayStation and PlayStation 5 and PC. You play in Val Warden, a guardian of Ur, protecting its people from and the natural spirits that live there. There are two pillars right now that they're advertising on this game for Guild Wars 3. First, the combat. An action RPG combat meets Guild Wars build making. Interesting. So, I mean, I don't know anything about Guild Wars spec system and everything, but that's kind of, that sounds what this is getting into, is the way you build out your specs, the way you build out your combat characters and everything else. And an RPG-style combat system, which typically is better than a tab targeting MMO system. Honestly, for MMOs in general, tab targeting has often been the go-to. Ashcall, thank you for the follow and welcome to our Scourge. And anyone who's tried to diverge from that, or go another way, you could talk about New World and their combat system and how that was handled, or even like you go back to like World Star and how they had like a bunch of frontal cone stuff going on, different combat system, aim. You actually had to aim abilities in that one. Blizzard's actually gotten a little bit into that recently with WoW. A lot of abilities, kind of from the Drakthir and stuff, do have actual aim ability to them. So we're entering a bit of a hybrid in tab targeting in WoW, but it sounds like Guild Wars 3 is going to continue to push the combat system. They say where depth comes from skill use, positioning, and movement rather than just old tab targeting rotations. So again, kind of aiming abilities and stuff. The second is traversal, a momentum-based movement system that lets you glide, leap, sprint, and ride, carrying your speed between modes of travel. Interesting. So again, I already mentioned Guild Wars 2. One of the things that contributed to WoW that was really important was the dynamic flight system. Dragon riding right now, as it currently stands in WoW, was blatantly ripped off of Guild Wars 2, and I'm not afraid to admit that. Blizzard's done that a lot in the past, where they take something really good from one MMO and put it into theirs. And it sounds like they're working on some sort of mounting system for just grounded mounts as well. They're talking about keeping your momentum, gliding and leaping, sprinting. It sounds cool. A more dynamic kind of mounting from what we see here. Samiccus class spec is based off a weapon choice, like 5 to 6 specs trees, and you pick 3 of the talents and points. Okay, so it's kind of like New World. I did play through New World, and I remember New World did have a kind of a spec-based thing where your weapon kind of changed the way you played. I'm actually pretty excited for this. I can speculate. If I can speculate, they're going to had a reunite of Kratos and Faye in a future game, possibly playing with both like we did with Kratos and Atreus. Interesting. Okay, I don't know anything about these lore characters in terms of the lore of what Guild Wars 3 is going to bring, but it does sound like they're really leaning into combat systems and mounting systems here, interestingly enough. So Fully localized, it's in English, French, and German, to be announced in terms of dates here. So that's everything we know right now about Guild Wars 3. The other big MMO that a lot of us have talked about from time to time is Riot's big Runeterra MMO. Runeterra is basically a League of Legends version of Azeroth. It's their world. We don't know what this game is going to be called yet. We really don't know much about this game at all. All we know is that they've been working on it for a long time. At one point, they decided to scrap what they had been doing because they felt like it was just a reskin of WoW, as they called it. And then they moved on, hired more people, and continued to push into what they're gonna be in terms of an MMO. So let's check out kind of the new news that's been dropping from this. Riot's MMO has been one of the most watched in the genre. Announced, rebooted, stripped back to the studs after a public reset, and otherwise kept behind a very thick curtain. But recently, that curtain has slipped twice. First, their hire of Brian Halinka, the longtime World of Warcraft combat PvP designer, to help lead combat in Runeterra's MMO. Pulling a name that is that senior off of the Blizzard flagship is exactly the kind of signal that tells you that the project is past the whiteboard stage and into the part where someone has to make swinging a sword feel good thousands of times an hour, and we cover that more in depth here. That is totally true, by the way. One thing Blizzard and World of Warcraft has often brought is the good feeling of swinging a weapon. I've talked about that many times. Making contact in World of Warcraft with a weapon or with anything else always felt better than a lot of MMOs. There's always this jankiness to the way a lot of MMOs, you interact with the environment, or you interact with other people. For some reason, World of Warcraft has always been the smoothest. It's always felt right, always felt good. And yeah, taking somebody like a Brian Halinka, maybe that's because they're trying to make their combat system feel smooth as well. And then this came out as prior to Riot's certainly didn't plan to make this next public statement. Shortly after starting, Halinka posted and then quickly deleted, I didn't know this, a tweet that let a playtest cat out of the bag. Let's see what the tweet was here. This is now no longer up, so if you try to find it, you won't be able to. It says, "Wow, people here are really excited about this game. I feel so fortunate to be on it. I promise to do my best and help the team. They are incredibly talented and passionate about bringing Runeterra to life. I watched a playtest last night, and it looked like a blast." Okay, so yeah, he revealed that they're playtesting. I see what's happening here. Yeah, he revealed basically that Runeterra's got a playable, or Riot's got a playable version of their Runeterra MMO currently being used internally. So that's a pretty big deal. Yeah, that means they're much further along than I think a lot of people think. So here it goes. The deletion is a tell. A studio that's comfortable with saying we're hiring great people is very different from a studio being comfortable with saying we have a build that people are playing. That at a leadership level hire, watch a playtest last night. That a leadership level hire watched a playtest last night, as he said in the post, and that the post got scrubbed later on, strongly implies that there's a real hands-on internal build of the Runeterra MMO running right now, and that Riot wants to control exactly when the world hears about it. You don't pull a tweet about something that doesn't exist. That's right. I totally agree with that. I mean, clearly, this tweet hit a little nerve with them. They didn't really want this getting out, and well, it's out now that they in fact have one. A quick reminder, Halinka left Blizzard to start a gaming company with a friend. His excuse, and that company never existed. Yeah, well, you know, some of these guys, I don't know about non-competes. It actually does. I know for a fact non-competes are not legal in California, but his reason for leaving, it was kind of weird. I believe he did in fact work at Lighthouse Studios for a little bit. I could be wrong about this, but another one that was started up by a former Blizzard employee. So what he's been doing since then, I'm not exactly sure. I haven't been following Brian Halinka, but the hire on Riot's part is a pretty big deal. So why this matters in terms of timeline? An internal playtest of the single biggest tea leaf of an unannounced game. It means there is a vertical slice, combat traversal, and some piece of the world that's coherent enough to put a controller on. That's still a long way from a trailer, but it moves Riot's MMO out of concept and into development, and we can prove it. We have factors that lay out the estimates directly below. And then finally, the big incumbent, right? You can't talk about MMOs without talking about World of Warcraft. And the biggest move World of Warcraft's coming out with soon is World of Warcraft Plus. That's right, or Classic Plus, I should say. Now, for me, look, I'll lay it out flat. I'm a retail Andy. I don't play Classic. I've never really been into Classic. I did play Vanilla WoW when it was out. I started playing this game in 2005, so I did play through Vanilla WoW. Still one of the best gaming experiences of my life. I'll never forget it. But I've never been really into playing the Classic versions and going back to the old world. But Classic Plus is going to be an interesting take, and anyone who thinks it's not going to change the MMO industry is kind of lying to themselves. So the long-running community demand for Classic Plus has always been there, a version of the vintage World of Warcraft that keeps the old-school design but adds genuinely new content rather than just rerunning the original expansions, and has been built for years as a drumbeat that has gotten noticeably louder. That's right. To be clear about where this one currently sits, unlike Guild Wars 3, announced at this point, and Riot's MMO confirmed in development and playtesting, Classic Plus is the most speculative of the three. And I'll add on top of that, it's the most speculative of the three, but it also could be the furthest along. That's right. I mean, Classic Plus certainly is something I think Blizzard's been working on for quite a long time. Any sort of the Classic announcements that Blizzard's given us so far, as soon as they announce it, it's very much available to play pretty quickly after that. Now, I don't think we're going to get Classic Plus like the week after BlizzCon. I do think they're announcing it at BlizzCon, and we're probably going to get it shortly thereafter. I can't imagine like 2 years out or something being what they're going to say for Classic Plus. I would think like the next year. So in 2027, I would think Classic Plus is going to be out and playable. Going off of that, again, Blizzard has spent the Classic era carefully testing the appetite for things like Season of Discovery, for something like this with Season of Discovery, and all of which read as groundwork for a more permanent Classic Plus offering. They treated it as a heavily rumored, widely expected third combatant rather than a sure thing. But if and when it lands, it reshapes the whole board because it pulls at the genre's biggest existing audience and pulls them back to the table. That's right. From a strategic picture, this writes itself. ArenaNet is courting the lapsed and the curious with a fresh sequel. Riot is building the League of Legends audience that has never had a way to live in Runeterra, and Blizzard is defending its enormous nostalgia base. Everyone is fishing in an overlapping pond. And here we go. So we got the three big titans right now fighting it out in the MMO scene. You might have some sort of, Lord of the Rings MMO coming out, some other guys, but right now these are the three big boys. Every streamer says different things about Classic Plus. They can't all agree, and the majority of their opinions are literally an expansion. Hatsutu, that is what Classic Plus is, though. It's basically an expansion post all the classic content, but remaining in the classic feel, the classic way of building a game, the long leveling, the abilities, the talent trees, the way things are done in classic, the difficulties that exist with it. They don't want any of that changing. They just want more of it, and that's what Classic Plus is. It's an expansion that doesn't really expand into new systems or anything, but just expands the story and things to do. Doc Dynamite, they're going, what is it, Streamers will ruin Classic Plus. They can't play it, and they will want the game to cater to them and their fan base. I mean, I don't know if Blizzard's going to actually cater the game to streamers. I mean, that's a small subset of people who actually play the game. And one thing I will say about Classic in general is it is more streamable. Because the game is so simple, it's pretty easy to understand for anyone who's watching. I feel like that's why Hardcore really had the love that it had in terms of people watching it. It's a very easy game to watch. Rather than something like, Arena and current retail WoW. I mean, you got to be an expert to understand what the hell is going on in Arena a lot of times. So there's a big difference between watchability and everything. But I think Blizzard is going to just build off a classic. Build off of what they did in Season of Discovery. And give the people what they want in terms of an expansion on a classic version of the game. So looking at when we're going to get all these things, we do have a timeline here. For Guild Wars 3, they've already announced the trailer. The next beat is gameplay reveal, expected within roughly a year, with the fuller show and beta signups likely to start through 2027 before a 2028 launch. That would be pretty quick. I mean, 2028, I know right now we're still in 2026, but man, time's moving so fast. We're already halfway through the year. So that's not too far away. We'll see how Guild Wars 3 actually lays things out. But yeah, I would like to see some gameplay reveals. That's definitely probably the next step for Guild Wars 3. For Riot's MMO, it's the inverse. It has a build, but no public face. because it's already in the playtesting stage, a first proper reveal, probably like a cinematic plus some sliver of combat, feels plausible in 2027, with Riot historically preferring to show things only once they are genuinely close to being done. Don't expect the playable beta before 2028 or 2029, or a launch before the back half of the decade. I agree with that. They're probably trying to get it out in like the 2030 timeline. I would think that's when we're going to actually see this thing launch. And also, I mean, the way the Last Titan's being built and everything for World of Warcraft, that would kind of line up with almost what will be a relaunch of a retail WoW. Right, we are getting Classic Plus, but retail is also going to be what's going to happen post the Last Titan. What are we going to experience in that? That's going to be the next big, this seems like the next big decade of what World of Warcraft's going to be. So Riot's MMO may line up with the launch of whatever is going to be happening going forward in the retail version of WoW. And then you got WoW Classic Plus. It is the wild card. If Blizzard formalizes it, expect the announcement to be one of the bigger things, one of the big yearly moments, and comparatively fast turnaround. I agree with that. I think they're going to announce it at BlizzCon this year, and I think the turnaround is going to be pretty quick. I think it'll be less than a year that things should be playable. Classic content reuses an enormous existing foundation, so it will ship within the year of being confirmed. Yeah, I pretty much agree with that. Within a year of being confirmed, I think you could have a playable version of Classic Plus, no doubt. And I do think Classic Plus of these three will be the first one to launch, even though technically it's like the one that is one of the least announced right now. The takeaways here, over the next 18 months, the next 18 months are all about reveals, not releases. Guild Wars 3 will be fleshed out. Riot will likely break its silence on the back of that playtest, and Blizzard will decide whether it's going to actually make Classic Plus official to its player base or not. The actual launches stack up later. Guild Wars 3 could be first, and then likely a multi-year wait for Riot's Runeterra MMO. Classic Plus, if it happens, could leapfrog both of them and make it to the market before them. I agree. I totally agree with this timeline, tracking, and everything else. By the way, if you haven't seen this website before, Riot Grove, this place breaks down all League of Legends things, Riot's MMO, and all the other games. If you ever want to check out this website, I'll link this article in the chat and down below for anyone who wants to dig in further. But definitely interesting stuff here, a lot of crazy things, and as I said before, I think the re-renaissance of MMOs are finally upon us. Real cool stuff here. And for today, that is all in terms of news.